Welcome to KBM Sports Talks. I'm Kevin, and today, you guys, we got an interview with Western Mass's very own South Hadley, Massachusetts track star, Jonas Clarke, who has 3 state records, who has just been dominating since his freshman year of high school. He is committed to go to Harvard. Yes, I said Harvard, you guys. Committed to go to Harvard for track, and is the fastest person I've ever seen in my life. I raced against him in high school when I was a junior and a sophomore. Because senior year we didn't race against them, and he blew me away every time. But there is one time where I beat him off the line, and I will always say that. But he is an amazing person, very humble, you guys. So you guys got to make sure that you give a lot of love in the comments to Jonas. Especially thank you, Jonas, for doing this interview with me. I appreciate it, and I can't wait to see you at Harvard and then going to nationals for the championship for NCAA and going to the Olympics and all that stuff. I can't wait to see it all. Thank you so much for doing this interview, and the best of luck at nationals this upcoming week. And let's get into the video. I'm here with South Hadley, Massachusetts' very own and Harvard commit and track star, Jonas Clarke. He has 3 records. The Massachusetts State 100-meter record, which is a 10.395, and was tied for first nationally with a 6.2455-meter record. And I did track. And I remember I raced against Jonas once. I was just happy I beat you off the blocks. Beat you off the blocks, and I tell my friends, I'm like, I beat Jonas off the blocks, you guys. They're like, did you win the race? Nope. I lost by a good 2 cars lengths, but that doesn't matter. I beat him off the blocks. So this year, you committed to Harvard. What made you want to go to Harvard? And like, what other schools were looking at you?
So with the whole COVID process, it was probably one of the weirdest experiences I've had, especially I think it was weird for every kid in 2022, especially in the track scene, because with the COVID stuff and not having to run my sophomore and junior year, I didn't have really much to work with times. So, I only had my freshman 100, which is still good. Like I ran it 10.69 and I had like a 22 low, but, I had a bit of interest like throughout the early parts of my junior year. Like I did talk to a lot of D1 schools, like talked to Michigan, I talked to Dartmouth. And, towards the end of my junior year, I started doing like some real reaching out too. So I did a lot of reaching out, not as much responses as you would expect. But definitely Harvard was one of the schools that I was always talking to throughout this process. And I went on a visit over the summer and I loved it when I went. I was like, this is an awesome school. Like, they really do treat their, athletes as if they're also students. A big, I don't know too much about the student athlete perspective from other schools, but Harvard really wanted to make sure that, I was just as much of a student as I was an athlete. And since I've always been young, I've wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to do biomedical engineering to uphold while also being athlete. So while talking to Harvard, they definitely reassured to me, and they had athletes on the team that were doing very complicated majors, such as there was a biomedical engineer major, there was neuroscience majors. There was a bunch of people that were doing really complicated stuff, but also running fast and jumping far and jumping high and etc. in the process. So the other school I was looking at that I probably got to my top 2 were at the end was Harvard and BU. BU also had a very good school, also a very good engineering school. And they were developing a really strong team. They have a really good sprinter there who is a British guy, but definitely I kind of came down to the visits and I was like, all right, like I really liked Harvard when I visited. I came to BU and I just was like, all right, like I feel like Harvard's my place. That's where I want to end up. Decided to fully commit to there. And The weird thing was with these Ivy League schools, I did a lot of Ivy stuff too. I talked to like probably five of the eight like Ivy League schools too. And they all had to look at your grades. They had to evaluate, like their admissions had to evaluate you to be a student also. So if you wanted to commit there, you couldn't have committed. You can't commit until the admissions like accepts you. So you need to submit your application and you have to get a likely letter back from the admissions officer saying that you are a good enough student to be accepted into the school, which then you can commit. So with the whole recruiting process in Ivy League is really different, and it's kind of weird because you can't wait until the end to commit in like the summer. Like you need to commit early. Like you need to get everything situated. You have to send an application. You have to be just as much a student as much as you were an athlete, because if you were to not be an athlete anymore, then now you're just a student. So you need to be able to hang with the students at these Ivy League schools. So
What
yeah.
made you want to go to the Ivy League? Like, what made like led you to like those like Ivy League schools? You like you said you talked to like Dartmouth and all these other ones. What led you
Yeah.
to that?
A lot of them, as much as some of them reached out to me, and also I looked at them because, I think that the Ivy League schools are starting to turn up in terms of competitiveness, and especially in the track and field world. And track being individualized sport, as much as like there's relays and stuff, but you kind of focus on yourself. And I really wanted to have a good backbone and when I'm graduating. Personally, I've always talked about this. I've always had the mindset of using my academics to get into a school that I would consider a reach school. So most of the schools I reached out to were schools that I would consider reach schools, such as like Stanford, USC, Texas, like stuff like that, where their programs are very prestigious and hard to get into. So Ivy Leagues were on that list of really hard schools to get into. But I was definitely looking into it because they're turning up. They have this amazing runner who I'm obsessed with, Gabby Thomas, who's also a Western Mass native. She was the bronze medalist in the Olympics in the 200. And after when I was getting recruited, she was at the Olympic trials, and she qualified for the Olympics when I was getting recruited. And I was like, she did really good in the summer before I committed. And she really showed that, like, you can be a student athlete and you can excel at these Ivy League schools. And it's kind of showing now, because Ivy League schools are definitely amping up their competition as time goes on. I feel like by the time I'm probably after my time, but Ivy League schools will definitely be up there in these really competitive zones, and at least track and field, in my opinion.
So you're talking about Gabby Thomas going to the Olympics. Is that your like biggest goal in track? And if it's not, what is your biggest goal in track?
So I'm more of like a step-by-step guy. I will never have a big end goal, because I do not want to disappoint. Like, as much as it's as cool as to say like I want to go to the Olympics. Like, I'm more of a realist. Not to say I'm not going to. I just say that, like, my goal is to get into an NCAA championship, which is a huge process, especially as a true freshman. A lot of like there's only a handful of true freshmen that actually make it to NCAA like championships, because you have to qualify through the Eastern and Western preliminary rounds in order to be. You first have to be the top 48 in the NCAA in your region, and then come in the top, I think, 16 of those 48 people, and then you go into the NCAA's. And then indoor, they only take the top 16 people. So you need to be the best, and I want to excel in NCAA standards first before I start shooting farther, such as like the Olympics and stuff. But I never said it was out of the picture. I just say that, like, I think it's in the blinders. Like, it's always going to be my rearview mirror. I'm always going to be looking at it, but I think I'm going to focus on what's ahead right now.
So with your times, have you looked at like some of the college like NCAA times and compared them to your times and see where you stand?
The weirdest thing with track and field in the college and high school level is the gap. So if you're a sprinter and you're running like 10.4s, those
Yeah.
times could translate to automatically like 10.1s when you start as a freshman, because of just the training level that is just different from college and high school. So one thing I personally look at is like these runners' high school times, to see what they're running and when they're in high school, to see, if I could, translate just as well as that they are, and a lot of these runners are some of them are very raw and talented, while others are very, like technical and are at their peak running. So I consider myself more of a very raw runner. Like being from a small town with not as much, as like these big schools such as like IMG Academy, like in Florida, like there's private schools that are specific, like kids specifically get recruited for to run. And I'm hanging with these kids as like a small town kid who didn't have a weight room all winter, and doesn't get funded as much, and like we work with what we can, but it's just not the same as these guys that have personal trainers, personal nutritionists, like all these stuff, especially when it comes to recruiting and all that. So I personally think of myself as a raw runner who has a lot of potential when it comes to, getting access to all these facilities, weights, coaches, really knowledgeable people that, know the sport to a T. That's what they're doing for a living. They literally will study the sport. So I'm very excited to see how, my times will compare. And I definitely have like, goals in mind for when I go into college, but I'm not going to like expect them. But at the same time, it depends on how well I transition, especially as a freshman next year.
And like where you were going back to where you said about like the weight rooms and stuff like that, I can totally agree with that. I feel like in Western Mass, that's something that a lot of people don't realize what Western Mass is. The people that like kids that make it out of here, it's more amazing to see.
Yeah.
Because there's so less resources than you see like in Boston and Worcester, like stuff like that.
Easily. They have these are very raw, talented kids. And by taking a raw and talented kid, you are going to make a product. And
yes,
I think that's something that a lot of coaches, in my opinion, need to take into consideration when they're recruiting. Definitely how raw some of these runners are, because I definitely have my things to work on. Like we all know I have my things to work on. Like I'm very fast, but I know I have a bunch of like form, a bunch of technique, and a bunch of just like lifting. Like I'm like I don't got that big of arms. Like but definitely like I think I have a lot to grow with, so which I'm very excited for. And I know that Harvard, like after speaking with all these coaches, a lot of them saw a lot in me, and I just chose Harvard, and that was definitely, I think, a really good decision that I hope will pay off in the next couple of years.
And I think it will too, because and I think coming out of Western Mass, especially in our area, I feel like coaches don't understand too, like the pressures to like that is because you have a whole, like you said, a small city. It's a small city. You have all these people looking at you like you're a track star, you are like, or a football star, you're a baseball star. We expect you to do this, and like you make one little mistake or like get an injury, and they're just all like that. And I feel like coaches and like people that aren't from our area don't understand that the pressures that come with that.
Yeah, the hometown hero thing is something that, it's as cool as it is. It's a lot of pressure. I've gotten much better at dealing with it as I became a junior and a senior. But when I was a freshman and a sophomore, especially my sophomore year, it was really rough because my freshman year I was good. Don't get me, I was very good. Like I placed well at these state meets or whatever. But sophomore year is when I really started becoming a contender for these titles and stuff. And parents, strangers will see me on the streets and be like, yo, you're that really fast kid. And as cool as it is, I have some kids walking up to me nowadays, and especially when I was a sophomore, asking like, what am I going to run? Like, how am I going to do? You know I've gotten like, as I'm now, like I can joke around with that stuff, but when I was younger, it used to just break me down. And I always feel like I had to perform, and it wasn't for myself. So as I got older, I realized that like these are my times, and I'm going to run them just for myself. So why do I care what someone else has to say about them or someone is expecting from me? The only opinions I care about is my coaches, obviously, for like form, and my own. Like if I laid it all out there and it wasn't the time I wanted, then I guess we're gonna try it again and we're gonna get it next time. So that's probably my mindset going into all that. And the pressure is a lot, but definitely fixed how handling it. So yeah.
And that's amazing. And too, that's like you since freshman year you've been dealing with it, so you learn like the ways to maneuver, yeah, through it. And I remember being at the track meets, and like you would start running and everyone didn't care about the meets before. Everyone would go to your thing. And I would thought at first, like when I was younger, when it first started happening, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I started thinking, like, I realized from like that's a lot of pressure. It's like everyone's watching you. They're not watching anybody else. And like I was like, you're a year younger than me. So I'm like, that's a lot of pressure on at the time, like 16-year-old. I'm like, that's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure on a 16-year-old.
You know, my one thing is I've gotten very like I'm really like I'm never serious, which is probably one of the best things about me personally. I think that if I took track as seriously as like you can, and I obviously do take track seriously, but like if I'm not calm and I'm not joking around with people, I will do bad because I get in my head and I get very pressured and see all the people because as I get older, like especially when I got to like meets in Boston, people would literally like stop what they're doing to walk over and watch me run. And I thought that was as cool as it was. Like, I joke about it now because my teammate's awesome. Like we joke about stuff all the time. But like when I was younger, it used to terrify me because I was like, holy crap, like what if I don't run as good? Like, and Bay State running, they have interviews when I was a sophomore. They were all saying I was some like, dark horse, like I'm going to pull upsets and stuff like that, which is cool, super cool. But like now I'm going to bed like freaking out, thinking, oh my God, like what if I pull this upset? Like what's gonna happen? Like if I don't pull upset, that's cool. But then the favorite's gone, and now I'm that guy. Like now I'm the guy that people are trying to pull upsets on. And it's cool. It's so cool being the top guy, but at the same time, it feels like I'm defending something that doesn't even exist. Like no one's saying I have to defend anything. No one's saying I have to do this, but I feel like I have to hold up this reputation of someone who just has to go fast and has to run the times he needs to, which I have been doing, but I just need to calm down and understand like this is supposed to be fun. Like
Yeah.
the stress only came on when I was trying to get recruited, but otherwise I had so much fun with the sport.
And you said with teammates, like that's something that at Chickabee High, because I did an interview with my head coach my former head coach there, and I said to him, I was like, it's a family. I learned in track from playing. I played basketball, I played baseball, and one thing I noticed is that track, it's a family. It's a family atmosphere. Everyone is going to be there, and everyone knows everybody that's there, and on the team, and even other teams, like it's a supportive. Like, yes, we all want to beat each other at the end of the day,
Yeah.
but we all are going to make sure that we're all good. And that's
Yeah.
something I feel like in track, it's so much different than other sports. It's a family. Like you're on your team, like you said, your teammates, you guys joke around all the time. That's something that you don't really, you see that a lot in other sports, but it's so much bigger in track that people don't realize. Like, and I feel like that's something in track that's why I miss track more than I miss baseball, because track was so fun because of the people around me.
And I think that track was more collaborative and more so upbringing. You weren't fighting for a position, and if you were fighting position, it was a relay. But if it was a relay, then you were just as supportive if you didn't get the position. I think relays are probably one of the like craziest things to watch, even if you're not in them. And I think you train with some of these people for me, just to break 100th of a second. That is a lot of like stress that can go into a simple singular step. Like a singular step might be the only thing holding me back from doing something, and that might really bother me. But I have these. When I was younger, I had these upperclassmen that were very nice and very supportive, and obviously carried me through. And then as I'm older now, I have underclassmen that I hope to have made their high school experience, especially on the track team, better. Just because I was once there, and I have junior, I have friends that are, I have one really good friend, Emma Sanford, who's a junior at South Hadley, who I hang out with all the time. We are going to go to nationals together too. So she's good too. And we joke about stuff all the time. Like we have our whole inside joke. We have a bunch of stuff going on, but she's probably one of the bigger reasons why I've been so, calm and doing as good as I am, because we both understand that we can't, like, if we get stressed and take stuff too seriously, then we will fall apart. So we need to ease up, relax, talk about whatever. She has this thing where she looks for houses. That's pretty cool. I just talk, but
Yeah,
otherwise, yeah.
I'm the same way. I had and track, my person that was like that was Athena at high, the long jumper. Um
I love her. Yeah.
yeah, she's going to nationals too now. I learned that a couple of days ago and I was like, you didn't tell me. And she's like, you had a broken ankle, so I wasn't thinking you were thinking about that. I'm like, you got a point. You went on that one. But and like I remember like she used to always be the one to be like, because I like you said, you're always in your head. Like if you
Yeah.
don't, and she would always be the one like, hey Kev, like right before I jump, she would always look at me and be like, so what are you gonna get for dinner? And I'm like, it is 9 o'clock at night. We're at Smith. I'm like, it's 9 o'clock at night. I'm not eating dinner. I'm going to home and eat some dessert and then passing out. But like it would distract me, and then like literally I'll jump and then I'll do a great jump, and she would look and be like, I'd be like, why you say that? And she's like, because it distracts your mind. Because if you don't, I know how you are. You will
Yeah,
start
we've
thinking
gotten
as
much
you're running.
better.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what
Yeah, we
going
feel
back to family. They want to see you do better, and they learn because you're with your team in track more than I think any other sport, because you literally are with a group, or if you did long jump, if you did jumping and sprinting like I did, you go back and forth. And I know you did jumping and sprinting, but I don't know how
yeah.
South Hadley was that they separated you guys. Like,
So as in South Hadley, we now, since we have such a small, like since of COVID, like it literally just chopped our numbers in half. We have such a small team, so we all do everything together. So we do not really split up that much. Maybe for events we split up a little bit. I just sprint now. I don't jump anymore, but just to preserve my body.
yeah,
And I have my own group that sprints and with me, and these are some of my closest friends I've made just from being on a team together. And you wouldn't think that because track's individual, but I feel like you have closer bonds with some of these people than any other sport I've ever seen. So
yes, and like that's the one reason why I always go back to track too, like the track practices. Like I know I'm not doing it in college, but just to like show kids too, like the younger kids, like track is a family. Like you're gonna like I'm not speaking for you, but I expect thinking that you're gonna go back and help some like South Hadley, some of the kids too, or
I'll
keep like your in tabs like with some
be
of the
hanging
kids.
around. I'll be around there.
Yeah, so like that's why it's a family. Like you're gonna make sure like the program's still going good and stuff like that. Like same with me, like I always check up and be like, who's like the star, like who made nationals? Which I learned that we had two people make nationals this year, and I forgot that nationals is even a thing. Like, and then I remember, and then they're like, now it's in Philly and Penn, right?
Yeah, it's at Penn. I'm gonna there's two. So there's the one in Pill, there's one at Penn, and there's one at Oregon. And me and Emma are going to one in Oregon, but I know a bunch of people that are going to one at Penn. So it'll be quite divided, but it's still a national
Yeah.
level meet. So it's so sick. Yeah.
If I didn't have my ankle injury, I would probably went to the one at Penn. But ankle injury happened. I'm not trying to mess around. It's 12 days away. And yeah, I don't think I think I'll be able to walk by then. But like,
You can
I
check
don't,
in on the live stream, I guess.
oh, there is? Okay. I didn't know
Yeah,
there's a live stream.
there'll be some live streams that you can watch.
All right. I'll be on the lookout for those. All right. So with this, your last post you made, you posted that you broke the state record of 100-meter, and you said that you weren't able to walk a month ago.
Yeah.
What happened?
So, my first meet after nationals, it was a dual meet. We were, just hanging out. It was the reason why this all happened is because it was 40 degrees, raining, very cold. I was doing a relay and I got the baton and my hamstring totally just tore. Like it wasn't bad. And I looked it up, ended up being a grade 1 tear, but it totally just was a really bad grade 1. I was sat out. I could not move. I tried, we rolled it out. We tried getting a knot out. It was probably one of the worst experiences I've had because it was probably like I don't get injured that often, and when I do it, I normally bounce back and I can normally do the work that needs in order for it to get better. But this was probably one of those injuries where you just can't do anything. You just have to wait for your body to heal up. So meet after meet came. I was missing everything. I literally ran at one race and I didn't run at all until the very last meet before postseason, where I literally just survived the 200 just to qualify for Western Mass. And then that following weekend I ran the 100, at Coach's Invitational, which I was feeling slightly better, but I was still hurt. Like I was, practicing again, but it was not 100%. Like I was really, really being careful around it. I ended up running at this meet and ran a good time, but obviously had to go back, ice everything. And this is when I started going to physical therapy to get an evaluation because I've been hurt for 3 weeks. We need to figure out what was going on. And I had a whole evaluation. They said that my pelvis was rotated weirdly and my hips weren't aligned and my hips weren't flexible and my chest wasn't open up. Like we had to do a bunch of stuff in order to break down my body in order to fix it for my because my hamstring was taking the load of everything that was wrong up around my torso area. So we did exercises to open up my chest, which could give room for my pelvis to rotate correctly and run better. But definitely it gives a lot less strain to the hamstring. So which is why I was able to run at this meet because I learned what I did wrong. So I learned to run correctly. I ran a different way. Not a different way, but I ran in the correct way that didn't give strain to my hamstring. So since my hamstring wasn't getting as much, like strain and pressure, it was able to, just relax a little bit more, which totally helped. And I was so unsure about like running at Western Mass and stuff like that in postseason because now everything's getting close. I'm getting very nervous because, I had these big goals for this outdoor season, such as like getting the state record and running in 10-3 range and stuff. But, with this injury, I had no clue how the season was going to go. I went to prom and the Monday after that prom, I felt perfect. And it was probably one of the weirdest things ever. It felt amazing. So after that, I ran at Western Mass. After that, I've been just still going to physical therapy, still working on stuff, reinforcing my body. And I've been running throughout the middle of May is when I first started running again. And now I'm just running until now. So I've been active for about 3 weeks.
That's a lot to go into for just one hamstring. That just makes you look at the human body and be like, that caused my hamstring. Like that's
it was crazy. It was crazy hearing it because I would have never figured this out if I had never gone to physical therapy. And I probably would have had this problem eventually if I didn't have it in high school. I would have definitely had it at Harvard.
Yeah.
There was no avoiding it. If I didn't have my proper warm up and I decided to run, I would have totally blew it out. And I'm so happy I had this problem now and I fixed it now so I can run better at Harvard next year.
Yeah, and now you get to go to nationals again. You get like you're healed and everything, and that's just amazing that how the human body is. Though, like that's really like it just makes you really just be like my hips and this my like in the chest thing. That's the thing that got me when you said like you had to do like when we talked about this earlier. You talked about the breathing techniques.
I had to do breathing exercises, to open up my chest in order for my pelvis to have room to rotate upwards. It was one of the weirdest things. Like you wouldn't expect it. I still do it every once. I do it before I run. Definitely before I run. I do it at the meet before I run. I'm laying down on the ground on my back, and people have no clue what I'm doing, but that's what I'm doing. But and then I sometimes do it at home, and I do it when I go to BT, obviously. So yeah,
it's just crazy. Just like your chest will help your pelvis and hip. Like that's the something that I'm just still like just in my head like, wow, that's how. I gotta love the human body. Just what things that connect that you never expected to be able to connect.
For sure.
Well, thank you for doing this interview with me. You guys make sure you guys watch the live streams in Oregon for the Nationals and watch Jonas. What events are you going to be doing?
I'll be doing the 100 and the 200. So yeah, I think my 100 is at Eugene I think it's a Nike Nationals, and it'll be my 100 will be Saturday. I think June. I don't know what day exactly, but it's in June. I think it's the 18th, I think, whatever that teen weekend is, but I think it's June 18th. And the Sunday, the day after, I'll be running the 200. So hopefully I do well in both those. Hopefully you see me in both the prelims and finals. But I think I'll be wearing a bright pink uniform, bright like my pink camo, my pink, blue, and white camo, or maybe a green uniform. I'm not exactly sure what yet, but we'll see.
What cleat do you have? Like, do you only have one pair of spikes you wear,
Oh,
or
I
do?
only have one pair of spikes.
All right,
These ones are mad expensive, so I didn't get another one.
yeah.
But
I was
but
wondering,
yeah.
like, do you have like, because I know like some people have like two like spikes that match their outfits if they go somewhere on this like,
Oh no, 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 no. I
yeah.
don't got all that. No.
Do they give you like when you go to nationals? Do they give you any? Do you do anything?
Well, when I went to New Balance Nationals my indoor season, they gave me a whole uniform. They gave me like a uniform to run in my final. It was like a custom uniform. It says New Balance Nationals on the side. It's really cool. But I have no clue where else to wear it. I might wear it that weekend. I'm not sure, but we'll see. But they obviously give you the backpack
Yeah.
that like is essential for track athletes. But I got like then there's a couple stuff you can like buy, but no shoes, no shoes. But maybe one day when one company decides to really go out there and give the winner shoes, then maybe
Maybe Nike will. Nike is Nike. They may. We never know.
maybe who
Is
knows? I have no clue what's gonna happen at these ones. I have no clue who's gonna show out harder because both these nationals are going at it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
is Harvard Nike?
Harvard is sponsored by Nike. So yes,
Oh,
I think I'll be doing a lot of Nike stuff. They were sponsored by New Balance until a couple years ago, but they switched to Nike. So I will be getting the same spikes I have now and Nike stuff. Like it's pretty cool going from the same, like it's just familiarity stuff.
yeah.
But yeah.
That's good too. And it'll be to have the Harvard stuff all over it. It'll be dripped
Yeah.
out.
I heard you guys get so much stuff by the end of my fourth year. I'll just have a ton of stuff just to give away because it'll just be too much.
That would be all.
But
That would be cool
that'll
too.
be fun. Yeah, that'll be
But
fun.
make sure you guys tune into the Nationals to see Jonas blow by everybody like he did me. And trying to think of what I was gonna say. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and until next time, see you.